And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and crypto degenerates. Welcome back to Cryptomancy, the show where we talk about anything and everything related to crypto. So, we did a little bit of a news roundup last week, and we didn't get to one final thing that I wanted to talk about. So, we're going to talk about it this week. And then after that, we're going to talk about some more interesting subjects, or perhaps less comical ones at the very least. So I'm joined here
Yeah.
today by by the Grand Nagus, Greedy Ferengi.
Hello. Good to see you all again this week, D-Chance.
Yep. And you'll be able to listen. Someone made a comment. I don't know if you saw it, Nagus, but they said you
He
sounded like
said I sound
Did you read it?
Rocky, which is, yeah, I did, yeah. I sound like Rocky. That's interesting, considering Sylvester Stallone has a speech impediment. Um,
But then he followed it up with the best compliment ever. He was like, "But a few
yeah,
standard
yeah,
deviations intelligence."
exactly. Yeah, that was very kind of him. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
So shout out to that
Yeah.
guy.
Oh,
I'll get
they
your
didn't
name.
know that. Stallone has a speech impediment because when he was born, the left side of his face was paralyzed. Yeah,
Really?
hence the Stallone sneer, and he learned to compensate for it. But it's sort of like, Adrian. Yeah, it's a slight legacy of his condition.
Huh,
All kudos to the man for overcoming it. Anyway,
for sure.
okay, let's go.
So yeah. So kudos also to that commenter. So we love our comments. I'll try to remember
Yeah,
names next time so I can give you guys a proper shout out.
Stephen, I think his name was.
Yeah. Shout out Steven if that's your name. Steven Seagal,
Yeah,
another legend. But
indeed.
maybe that's why he said. Well, we're harping on this too long. So what we're talking about this week is CSW, Craig Satoshi Wright.
Oh God.
Yeah, everyone's favorite
Oh,
subject. I feel like
endlessly
yeah,
famous.
that's the
The gift that keeps giving.
or taking in some cases if you're long BSV.
Yeah, yeah,
But you know, there's actually people like small side topic before we really get into the meat of the thing. There's actually people I find it so hard to believe. First, there's people who fall for scams like the Richard Hart scam, and that's another thing we should talk about. We'll talk about next week. The Richard Hart
yeah.
thing where he's just directly scamming people with quote unquote super high return investments and all that. I can't believe people fall for that after we've had BitConnect and all these other
I've had
scams.
people spam me about Hex
Yeah,
in Discord, and it's just,
ridiculous.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you actually write with those crayons? Yeah,
Yeah, so I actually, you know what? We'll get into Hex some other episode because I really
yeah.
do want to dig into that. But I think that deserves a little bit of research before we get in that one.
Mm.
But yeah, Hex is funny, and I can't believe people invest in it. And not only that, but it's also the whole. There's this other side of crypto like idiocy that invests in Ripple, and then there's
Yeah.
another side on top of that, like three-sided coin of, you know, being a moron that invests in BSV and Bitcoin
Oh,
Cash
yeah.
and thinks that
Yeah.
these are like I find it so hard to
The
believe that
real
communities actually
Bitcoin.
spread up around these coins. Like it's insane to me.
Well, it reminds me of like people's, schismatic religions, basically in the 20th century. You know, like the Moonies and others,
Yeah.
um, flat earthers, for example.
Oh God, there's a
There is no ideology that's so stupid and bonkers that certain groups of people won't believe in it.
yeah. If you're listening to
You
this
have
and you're a
a
flat
community in
earther,
Kazakhstan that actually believes in Lord of the Rings so much that they actually live as hobbits in holes in the ground. Did you actually know that? That's been going on since the 70s.
oh,
They were counted as a persecuted minority during the Soviet Union.
that's insane.
I was like, yeah, there's no ideology so stupid people won't believe in it. That's
Maybe
anything
that's what
silly.
makes them believe in it. You know, maybe we should write a thesis on that. You know, like the dumber
Yeah,
your ideology is, the more you'll attract people. You know,
yeah,
to drink the Kool-Aid, so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I just it just boggles the mind, boggles the senses how people can
I
actually
know.
invest in these coins, and especially BSV, which is an even more illegitimate fork of Bitcoin Cash, which is an already illegitimate fork of Bitcoin. But
Mm.
you know, we won't go into that one. So the news for anyone who's listening. The basic gestalt is that Craig Wright was sued some years ago by the Klymans. The
The
Klymans,
brothers. Yeah.
the Klymans was, I think it's the Klyman estate. So like his family, whoever's in his family, I guess, mom, brother, whoever. So Craig Satoshi Wright worked. I'm gonna call him that on accident so many times. Craig Stephen Wright worked with one of the Kleinmans many years ago in Australia, and they developed nothing. Basically, it was a huge scam essentially. And fast forward, the guy dies. Fast forward some more. The Kleinman estate is now suing Craig because they say that he owns what's called the Satoshi, the Tulip Trust. That's what it's called. And in the Tulip Trust is a collection of private keys, and these private keys.
Yes, basically, him and the brother set up an account with certain keys with a large amount of Bitcoin inside, based on the fact that CSW was Satoshi. Yeah, so therefore he should have the keys.
Right.
And to claim his half of the trust, the estate says, okay, hand it over. Yeah, at current valuations, we need to monetize this and split the values. And it's a strange thing, but old fake Toshi can't seem to come up with the keys.
Yeah,
very strange.
So there was
repeated legal instruction to do so.
So CSW invents many ways of delaying things. It's almost like the old Fabian military strategy where you don't actually ever fight your opponent; you just keep running away. So so you never really lose, but you also never really win. So CSW does the same thing. Where he kept delaying things as long as he could. And the biggest delay that would prove to the world whether he really was Satoshi or not had a lot to do with this Tulip Trust, where it would unlock in January of 2020. And lo and behold, January 2020 passes. And what's going on? Nothing.
No keys.
Yeah, no keys. So CSW's in the court, and the people are asking, and the judge is like literally there asking him like, okay, so where are the keys? And CSW, instead of giving a legitimate, honest answer like you're supposed to under the court of law, he actually says something along the lines of, "It's none of your damn business." You know, in that shitty Australian accent.
Really?
That is actually what he said. It's funny.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's pretty much just trolling the courts, which is funny in its own right. But he's also trolling everyone else involved, anyone who actually thought CSW was Satoshi, like in the first place. I mean, come on, just put two and two together. Second place, watch my video on it. Third place, at this point, it should be pretty obvious to anyone that, this was the big event that Craig Wright was really alluding to even himself for so long, that, oh, I'm Satoshi. As soon as the Tulip Trust unlocks, you guys are going to see, I'm going to dump Bitcoin to zero. The thing unlocks, and
nothing.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
The latest episode in the saga of the Baron Munchausen of crypto. Yeah. Great film. Watch it. Reminds me of the
I haven't seen
the
that
Man in the
movie,
Moon. Yeah, it's kind of on that level of. I don't know. I don't really have a word for it anymore.
Yeah,
it's a good film actually. It's enjoyable, but he's just comedy value. He's infinitely less entertaining.
Clownfoonery. That's the word.
Yeah. Well, I heard something about a bonded courier. He claimed something that a bonded courier was going to bring the keys to the courthouse or something, and that bonded courier didn't turn up.
No, I think
this is Craig speak for. This is Craig speak for the dog ate my private keys, isn't it?
Yeah. So we did basically, like, the Tulip Trust was unlocked, and what was inside was just a collection of public addresses that are that I don't even know if they're actually related to Satoshi or not. I didn't research that part, but it's all there are. It's just public addresses.
What?
So like I could have spent 10 minutes going on the Bitcoin Block Explorer and put together 100 addresses and being like, there you go, there's the Tulip Trust. It's worth $100 million. It'll unlock in 2025.
What is it? Is it like it's basically it's just a screenshot of public addresses.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just a list of public addies that anyone could make. So I don't really know why the Kleinmans are spending all this money unless they're fooled that this is Satoshi actually, or they actually want to just unveil him as the fraud that he is. And if that's their game,
I don't know. I think it's a combination of it's cluelessness, unveiling him, sort of clearing their brother's name, and hopefully getting something out of it.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're not going to get much out of it because the man is all smoke and mirrors, math and trousers. There's nothing there. Abundantly clear. And the fact that they'd even allow the admission of evidence of just a list of public addresses as a tool of trust indicates that the technical smarts was with the dead brother, not the one that's actually pursuing the case. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's also possible that someone might be funding the Kleinmans to try and discredit CSW,
Could be.
which I think they've done now. So kudos to those guys if that was the plan. But the other interesting thing that came out of that is that some people, you know, we were talking about stupid communities. Some people actually thought that CSW would have access to all of this Bitcoin, like billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin. So what they started doing was CSW said once he had access to the Bitcoin, he was going to dump Bitcoin to zero and put it all in BSV. So morons, started buying BSV. And BSV, what do you know? It goes up like 3x in a week or something.
Yeah.
It's like just a monster pump. And now it could also be Calvin Ayre, who's a billionaire, who's Craig Wright has somehow managed a trick. Or I don't know, maybe he's in on it. I don't really know the specifics of that one. But it could also be his massive amounts of money just being dumped into BSV. Who knows? I know you had a theory on that.
Yeah, I have. I don't know. Maybe it's too tinfoil hat, but I think old Craigie boy is getting squeezed now. He knows he can't come up with the keys. He knows he needs liquidity, to cover his liability, which is probably going to start appearing very, very soon. And he knows that if he doesn't make some kind of effort at settlement, he's probably going to be spending the rest of his life picking up soap in prison showers, which is not an optimal, life path, really. So convince his friend Calvin, or will convince Calvin, pump BSV, right? Craig dumps all his BSV along with Calvin, and that solves some of his liquidity issues. And the BSV community are left squealing like little bitches.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because he definitely will have a liquidity need very, very soon, I think, by the end of the year.
Yeah.
He can only delay this and injunction this and adjourn this for so long before he loses. Maybe he has an appeal. That falls flat on its arse as well. And then it's show me the money, Satoshi. And then he has to make some kind of deal. I don't think he'll manage a lot because he hasn't got the Bitcoin, but he has to make some kind of deal with the Kleinman Trust. Hence, the only thing he's got that he controls or potentially could control the value of and dump is BSV.
Yep. Yeah.
Maybe it was a trial run for that. I don't know.
It's not bad. Yeah. I mean,
just sheer stupidity, basically.
I think most people, the general consensus is that Calvin Ayre has been funding Craig Wright this whole time. And so I suppose if you're a billionaire, giving out $500,000 to some guy or whatever so he could feed himself for a year and is whatever. But if you're asking me about $10 million, $50 million, like that's a lot of money. So here enters BSV. We create this huge narrative around this coin, and this is how we get our 10 million, 50 million, whatever settlement payment. And this is how we get out. We create this pump, and
Calvin gets his promo money back.
Yeah.
Satoshi gets his liabilities covered, plus a nice chunk of change. Everybody else gets dumped on.
Yeah. Perfect happy ending and moral.
It sounds like a plan. It sounds like pretty much the only way out for him now, considering how far it's gone.
Yeah.
I don't see any other way out.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's certainly plausible, and actually, in my opinion, very likely, because CSW is a pretty smart guy. He's stupid, but he's smart. So it's definitely something he'd be willing to do.
Well, he's smart, but his problem is he believes his own propaganda. He doesn't have any sense of perspective now. He's so inflated that he just, he's out there with, in cloud cuckoo land.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's being dragged back to earth, and he's screaming and kicking and very scared.
Yeah. But yeah, if he gets that, if there is a settlement that happens, I think that will definitely, like almost certainly prove your theory right. So time will tell on that.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yep.
Nevertheless, I'll enjoy watching it, and I will bring popcorn every time it pops up.
Yeah. Good opportunities to short BSV anytime it goes
up.
So other news. There's nothing else really in the news. I wanted to do a little bit of a segment where we talked about Bitcoin in general, and I will start this with a disclaimer. Actually, Negus, you can give your disclaimer on this because I know price prediction and all that.
My disclaimer is anybody who claims they know what the end value of the year, everybody, I can put a number on it. I don't think it will go higher than 20 this year.
Right.
For various reasons. But I'm just as likely to be wrong as the next man.
Yeah.
Anybody who says, no, XYZ says it will be this, or
Yeah.
in another person's words, it will be this by this date, otherwise I will eat my dick on live on national television.
It's mathematically impossible for Bitcoin not to be below $1 million.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's quite possible for him to eat his shrivelly old willy, but again, we'll see. Yeah, not really, no.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
4chan.
But
yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing
Any
this.
pundit can say anything. If they say X, then please don't believe it, because
take a bucket full of salt.
Take a bucket full with you.
Yeah. So yeah, we're calling this the prediction segment, but it's not really a prediction segment in that sense. It's more of a fun thing.
Fun thing where things could possibly go.
Yeah.
Possible reasons as to why it could go there.
Yeah.
Possible things to think about that might influence it.
For
and
sure.
then make your own mind up. It's just more a listing of factors of what could happen than a prediction.
Yeah. So I will tell everyone, at least from my side, I am long. I have been long. Mm-hmm. Well, I've been long since 2016, but I've been long with leverage since February 1st. Actually, no, I was long even before then. I think I was midway through January, I started to leverage long because I think there's a huge opportunity right now. And the way this works in the crypto community especially, is everything runs on a narrative. The narrative is so powerful. The narrative is the strongest thing ever. So when BitMEX released that basically hit piece on Ethereum, and then the next day, they switched it. They released the Ethereum contract on BitMEX, and then the next day they released that Ethereum hit piece. Everything you saw on Twitter was completely negative news. I'm shorting Ethereum. Ethereum is a shitcoin, 2-digit shit token, as BitMEX called it. And what do you know? Ethereum dumped all the way from I don't even know, $600 or something, all the way down to the super, super lows of $86 or something like that during the very low. And it dumped even harder than Bitcoin dumped. I think Bitcoin dumped. So Bitcoin was 20K to 3K, which is almost a 90% loss. Ethereum was way worse than that. It was 95% loss or something in total. And that was largely due to the fact that there was that before, when Ethereum was pumping, there was this huge narrative of ICOs. And then after, the narrative changed entirely to Ethereum is a shitcoin. The token fundamentally didn't change, but the thing that did change was the narrative surrounding it. And
nothing changed. People were still building. People were still using it.
Yeah. And so now I see the exact same thing happening with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin in general, the way that Bitcoin works is it doesn't really have a roadmap aside from things like ETFs, new derivatives being put out. And then also we have halvings. Halvings are some of the strongest narratives and roadmap targets we really have for Bitcoin. So what that means is, historically, I went back and looked at this. About 3 to 6 months before every single halving, and we've had 3 of them now. One of them I don't really count because it was so early in its life cycle, but we've had 2 of them where we can look at with decently reliable evidence. 3 to 6 months before they start, before the halving happens, Bitcoin really starts ramping up very, very aggressively. And what do you know? We're 3 to 6 months before the next halving starts, and we've finally broken out of this huge triangle that was really, really bearish. All of the EMAs are turning up, all of the MAs are turning up, and what I think is going to happen is the narrative is going to start playing of Bitcoin's halving is coming. Bitcoin can't go down during a halving; it must double. And because that's the narrative that's going to be in everyone's mind, everyone is going to start longing.
Prophecy.
Exactly. So I don't necessarily think that Bitcoin is going to go to the moon just because I'm a Bitcoin bull. I think it's going to go to the moon just based on pure fundamentals or not fundamentals, but pure psychology of what people think. So I think the narrative is the strongest thing possible. So we were in a downtrend for the long time since last year. Basically, I think it was April roundabout where we hit the top there, 14K. And we just been dumping. Higher, lower low. but we made the first higher low very, very recently, and then we made a higher high very recently. We're in the higher high right now. And so now all of the perspective is shifting, all of the narrative is shifting. And so I think once that narrative sets in, which it's going to very, very shortly, it's going to be so, so hard for bears to take control of that afterwards. Like, it's going to be insane.
There'll still be dips, I think. I think
yeah.
you're right. The narrative is the strongest thing, and I think there still will be dips. But another factor you have to bear in mind is that the crypto market no longer operates in isolation from fiat world. There is the safe haven factor. Certain people, there is the releasing liquidity factor, where basically you have institutional trading bodies, particularly on things like CME, who are also betting in the fiat and the equities and bonds markets as well. And that is an extremely, especially treasuries and bonds, is an extremely fragile market now, even because it's so high. Yeah. If there is a major takedown in that, history tells us that people liquidate some assets to cover their liabilities due to a short squeeze in another asset. Yeah. So if equity take a tumble, which is a good chance if the next so-called trade deal, which isn't a trade deal, doesn't appear, or some other factor, or coronavirus, which I think is all mostly hype anyway.
The coronavirus pump, man. That's the best. That's the best Bitcoin narrative.
Coronavirus squeeze, more like.
Bitcoin's gonna give us. It's gonna save us from the coronavirus.
It will be a squeeze, a short-term squeeze, really, because people will sell, large chunks on CME or CBOE or whatever, to actually cover liabilities in other areas. Yeah. Or buy bullion, for example, or you never know with these people. You don't know what's going, but there are linkages between fiat world and the crypto markets now. And we are affected by, geopolitical or fiat trading events. Not completely, but there is an influence there. There is a linkage there now, which wasn't there a few years ago.
Absolutely.
And there is a factor. Coronavirus, I don't know what the hype is. We've had X number of deaths. You know that in the US alone this year so far, more than 10,000 people have died from just ordinary flu. So I don't see what the panic is about.
The coronavirus is ramping up like Bitcoin in 2017, bro. Trust me, we're all gonna die.
Actually, it's not. If you look at the curve of infections, and deaths, the curve has leveled off and it's dropping now. It's peaked.
Oh no, it hit 20K already.
Yeah,
I actually think it literally hit 20K infected.
Yeah, but
it's a perfect analogy.
We'll see a pump up to the halving. Yeah, that's a given. It's happened before. Very good chance. Yeah. Higher highs, higher lows. Not sure whether we'll see more than 20 this year.
I don't think so. I definitely don't think so. I think personally,
unlike that.
Yeah, personally, this is not like a price prediction for anyone listening to this to listen to. This is just my own personal price target. I think 15 is probably where we're headed to.
Good chance. Yeah. But there is also a factor of sort of with the fiat world linkages, now, to get through 20 and get another all-time high by the end of the year, you have a hell of a lot of momentum over time. Yeah. And the last time that happened, the crypto market was pretty isolated, along with the ICOs
and it was
everything.
Much smaller.
Was very, very isolated from perceptions in the fiat world market. There was no narrative linkage, in terms of real, in terms of fiat world events. Now there is. So that being as it may, and with things like CME and CBOE, there are things which can basically pull some of the momentum out of the rise over time. Yeah. So, for example, you go to 11, some shit happens with a trade deal or whatever. Boom, we go back to 10-1. Yeah. So then you've got a ramp again. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Then another event can pull. So the rise is slower. There's no parabola anymore. There is still volatility. Granted, it's still way more volatile, but there's no 2017, parabola going to happen.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
There will be a bull that's going to make the other bull look like a storm in a teacup, but it will happen over a longer period.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will be in such a concentrated time frame, so you have to be here for the long haul, really.
It's a good time to hold Chainlink and hold ETH, guys. I've been so rewarded for just sitting on my butt and holding the coins that I fundamentally like. On it, like Ethereum's almost $200 right now. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Remember,
good.
I was telling you about this. I think I even made a video on the channel where I was saying like, yeah, I'm buying so much Ethereum right now because of I did my research. Like, so Bitcoin, same thing. Ethereum's looking good. Chainlink's looking great. So
I think it will take off again with ETH2 because also if you look at the timeframes of when people started building projects on ETH1, from the initial ICO of ETH to build people, hey, I'm building this project, the use case comes, the marketing comes, people, buy tokens and go in. I think probably Q3, Q4, when more of the platform is visible in terms of infrastructure for ETH2, we'll start seeing projects launching on it.
yeah, and I think that's also when the narrative will probably start kicking in because the narrative
That
hasn't
was,
kicked in yet.
yeah. When the projects start, that's when things will kick in.
Yeah. Yeah, about Bitcoin, I read a Kraken report um, about a week ago, and I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this to people, but whatever, we don't get that many views anyway, so I'll say it. In the Kraken report, they did analysis of whale wallets and the traction that was going in and out of these wallets. So they've been tracking these wallets since, like, they looked historically at these wallets and how they moved and how they accumulated and sold off coins and at what prices they did so and at what times they did so. And the general consensus among most of the whale wallets that they've analyzed is that whales right now are in a period of accumulation again. I know this is like the tired meme, whales are accumulating, but this is what they told. This is what the report said. They said that during pumps, they're usually like peaks. They're obviously selling the whales, the insiders. And right now they're in a period of accumulation. And the period of accumulation is what happens right before things start taking off. And I think that lines up quite well with everything we've said before about the narrative and the halving and all those things.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the general point I was making with that is I do think so fiat markets are like way more volume now. CME and all that, the futures have way more volume than even BitMEX. So they actually control the Bitcoin price more. However, I'm unsure as to how much Bitcoin is actually in the hands of, let's say, whales and Bitcoin holders versus traditional markets. Because I get the impression that because you have futures, you could just move the price this way and that, and you don't even care. You don't even need to own Bitcoin. Like I can own the entire supply of Bitcoin, and I can't do anything to the price unless besides selling it. But if you own the futures, you can raise the value up and down of my holdings, which kind of sucks. Yeah, I guess the point I was making is like it's hard for. I'm curious how much the legacy markets can influence Bitcoin.
It's not so much that they influence Bitcoin, is they influence the CME traders who do most of the volume volatility on Bitcoin. You see what I mean with futures?
Yeah.
They're not influencing the asset itself. They're influencing the short-term volatility.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Because
That makes a lot of
they're
sense.
exposed to fiat world events more than we are.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
The,
That makes sense.
the linkage is through CME and people like that.
I'm curious what the link is going to eventually be because so far there hasn't been too much of a correlation. And what I mean with that is we get events that are supposed to pump the Bitcoin price and then it dumps. And then we also get events that are supposed to dump the Bitcoin price and then it pumps. Like if you remember, there was that huge Binance hack. And what did it just it pumped on that? Like what a weird like that kicked off the low from 3K to like 14K just off the Binance hack. Well, it wasn't just off that, but you know what I'm saying? It's so weird. It's I don't know if we will ever find something where the correlation is like close to 1. Because so far what I've been seeing is it's really hard to be able to look at a piece of news and say, "Oh, this is going to dump or pump Bitcoin." Cuz I can tell you the coronavirus, okay, go short some CNY, easy. You look at the CNY charts, everyone's shorting. Okay, simple enough. But I can't say, oh, there's coronavirus, go long Bitcoin. Because sometimes you'll be right and sometimes you'll be wrong still because the correlation isn't 1-to-1 yet.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious as to what it will eventually settle on. Like, is Bitcoin? People are still figuring this out. I think. What is Bitcoin? Is it a safe haven asset? Is it something like for speculation?
Early days, yeah.
Yeah. So. I think it's absolutely something to keep an eye on, and something that will become more apparent as time goes on. But for now, I think it's still just anyone's guess as to, you are absolutely right in that legacy markets do influence the short-term volatility, but
And
I'm
it
not
goes
sure
through
as
the
to how.
CME markets.
Yeah, but I'm not
It
sure
goes
as to whether.
I think you get these CME guys who, are institutional, and most of the volume, high frequency volume trading is there. Most of the price is being met. It dwarfs BitMEX
Right. Yes.
because of the sheer speed and volume. So price making is at that end of the market in terms of futures and derivatives.
Yep.
Therefore, and they also have fiat world portfolios, these companies and institutions who have shares of treasuries, of forex, bonds, etc. And if they get a squeeze in some of those other areas, these are corporate entities. Yeah, the guys on the crypto, they have to realize and release liquidity from other portfolios, one of which is crypto. Yeah, which can trigger short squeezes. So it's not going to be an even parabola up to another all-time high. No, because these things will drag us down periodically. But the overall trend is bullish due to the halving and other factors.
Yep. So yeah, I'm long and strong. Negus, are you long and strong?
Yes, I'd like a bit more, of course, but long and strong, yeah, I'm hanging on to mine.
There it is, boys. The Grand Negus has spoken. He's long. And that'll be the end of our episode. Next week we'll talk about what we talk about next week.
Could do ETH2, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna do a big Ethereum episode, and then we'll get to Richard Hart. Then we will talk about Hex, ladies and gents.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, give us comments. Let us know what you guys would like us to talk about. We are we're pretty diverse knowledge here. Not to toot my own horn, but I think the only other guy that I know who can talk crypto like we talk crypto is Chris DeRose, and he went insane a few months ago. So
did he?
Yeah, he actually had his own podcast. It was very, very good. He actually had people like Vlad Zamfir on, and he really grilled them. Chris DeRose is really, he knows what he's talking about. But yeah, it's hard to find content like this of people who really understand things on an intimate level and all of that. But yeah, let us know what you guys would like us to talk about. We can talk about anything related to crypto, maybe even legacy markets sometime if we want to. But yeah, that'll be it for this episode. See you guys next time.
Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.